Hello, and welcome to the Daily Atheist. I'm Chris Mallard. Thank you for joining me. In this episode of the Evil God Monster of Abraham series, we'll cover Genesis chapter 14 in the Book of Death, the chapter in which Abram's God does pretty much nothing. Lot gets kidnapped. Abram rescues him, then bribes a priest with part of the spoils to call him the chosen one. Stick around. Don't let Bronze Age warlords loot your land and females who have not known a man by clicking that subscribe button and hitting that notification bell. Protect your home and hymens, my friends. Now, on with the show. Genesis 14. I gotta be honest, Genesis 13 and 14 are quite the snoozers, but we have to wade through the dull to get to the upcoming goodies in 15 through 20. 14, though, kicks off with a geopolitical mess. 4 kings gang up on 5 other kings in a battle royale over control and resources. The names are as unpronounceable as they are forgettable. Genesis 14, 11 through 12. The 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food. Then they went away. Let's put a pin in that for later, okay? They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. Remember how Lot chose to live near Sodom in the last episode? Well, yeah, that didn't age well. He gets swept up as collateral damage in this little turf war. Okay, back to that pin I mentioned a minute ago. This story essentially describes the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah by men, by 4 kings who teamed up and attacked the cities, not God. And Lot is forced out of the city, mirroring how he has to leave the city when God destroys it in chapter 19. Does chapter 14 give us the actual non-God-based reason for the destruction of those cities? Food for thought. But here's where things get interesting. When Abram hears that his nephew has been captured, he rounds up his 318 trained men. Yes, apparently, Abram runs a militia. And he goes full Liam Neeson to get Lot back. Genesis 14, 14 through 16. Abram called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his men to attack them and routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. Now let's pause here for a moment. Are we really supposed to believe that Abram's tiny ragtag militia took down an army of 4 kings who had just wiped out 5 other armies and gone through destroying cities? Really? Oh, and before you answer that, know that Abram is in his 80s when all this goes down. The Bible states that he was 75 in Genesis 12, a couple chapters ago, when he left Haran, wandered the desert, went down to Egypt, and did all that stuff where he gave away his sister wife to another man. In Genesis 16, a couple of chapters from now, he's 86 when he has Ishmael. And this battle happens somewhere between those events. So he's probably around 80, 85 years old when he leads his militia to run down the armies of the 4 kings, rout them, and then rescue Lot. Not very credulous, I don't think. Okay, so Abram rescues Lot. Then, out of nowhere, enter the king of Salem, the priest of God Most High. This king priest blesses Abram and says the victory was actually due to Abram's God. Convenient, huh? Then, in the ultimate reach around to this king priest, Abram hands over 1/10 of the spoils of the battle to him. Genesis 14, 19 through 20. And he blessed Abram, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hands." Then Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. Talk about one hand washing the other. It's good to know geopolitical corruption was alive and well back in the day. So let's recap. Lot's bad judgment lands him in trouble. Extremely elderly Abram miraculously becomes a military genius with his tiny militia and routs 4 other kings' armies with just over 300 men. Then a priest shows up out of nowhere to give Abram's God credit for everything. Abram pays off the priest, thus securing his place as the chosen one. So the Bible takes a chapter to peer into a moment into the life of this hero of the book. And what does it show us? Not a poet, a romantic, a scholar, a thinker. They didn't craft out the words to show us a character with a heart and purpose to a glorious, all-knowing, all-loving God. No, they showed us a devil warlord, essentially doing desert warlord things. Exactly what you'd expect from followers of the evil God monster of Abraham and its book of death. Remember, friends, protect yourselves and your hymens from neurosyphilis infected prophets and the voices in their heads by hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. Hey Christians, did you know your God is a pit demon? Watch this video over here to see the top 10 reasons why the Christian God is more like a pit demon than a benevolent father. Sin safely, my friends. Thank you and take care.